What's popular YouTube? Another day, another demo. Now we're back with m0NESY for the third time within 12 months, right? 2022, it's the first time, but it's also the first demo of the year, man. I did a few Talking Heads videos because the games hadn't started yet. I was watching some of the matches, the online matches, but the Tier 1 CS starts now with Blast, and I've had the pleasure of casting it. We casted the third game with m0NESY in it versus NIP on Mirage, an absolute banger, double overtime, exactly what we wanted. It's been beautiful to watch some of these new rosters come together. We are so lucky in CS to have all these teams. There's always so much stuff going on, but not only that, we have orgs that are making the right moves. We have G2, who have simultaneously created a roster that's more popular, but also a direct upgrade from their last roster, rest in peace, Almanac, and also Vitality, who have made a play to replace a roster that won the only LAN tournament that Na'Vi didn't win last year and still make it on paper look like it's supposed to be better with the additions of m0NESY and Dupree. So that's amazing. And XTAZ is the quiet upgrade as well as the coach. So many things that we heard from interviews I talk about in the demo today. This demo that we're going to watch is a 10-5 CT side on Inferno where m0NESY plays. And what I'm looking for in this demo is looking for him taking more initiative than we saw in the Academy League. And the results are varied. I think overall, the game, he had 100% KAST, so it was a great map overall. But NIP didn't really do a good job of pushing him back and making things harder for him. They struggled a little bit on the start of the day, but m0NESY took advantage of it, so we can credit him for that. And yeah, we're going to find out in this demo what m0NESY's favorite angle is. We see it a number of times in a few different rounds, and I expect that he's going to open that playbook up a little bit, start with some more opening tactics when he starts to get more comfortable. But I really want to keep a close eye on the initiative part because I think that was a defining factor with Bit, that once he started getting less nervous and more comfortable, he started understanding when he could be aggressive, when he could peak. And that's the storyline for today. So without further ado, let's hop into the game. Hope you enjoy it. m0NESY's debut. 2022 sucks. But what if you could make $2,000.22? SellYourSkins.com. It's all in the title. You sell your skins to cash out of those lovely works of art in your inventory with some of the lowest fees on the market, so you can finally put a dent in those pesky student loans. It's super easy with a variety of payment methods, including cash, crypto, credit card, etc. And if you use my code LAO, you get a welcome bonus. Thank you, Sell Your Skins, for sponsoring this video and making my content possible. Link in the description below. Back to the video. All right, so let's get into the match. m0NESY on G2 versus NIP. This is the second match of the day yesterday, and our first day back at Blast for Tier 1 2022 CS. And we get to see where m0NESY plays on all these different maps. They played Inferno, they played Mirage, and then they played one other map. It's slipping my mind right now. They played NIP twice, once on Inferno, then afterwards on Mirage. I casted the Mirage game, and yo, that game was sick. I mean, when I'm starting out at the beginning of the year after a break, I'm rusty too. You know what I mean? I talk about how these players are rusty and stuff. We talked about how Big was looking a little bit rusty, NIP a little bit rusty, but the casters too were a little bit rusty as well. You know, I can speak for myself at least. All right, and what's the storyline today? Well, m0NESY on Inferno is a guy, when we watched in the Academy League, when I was casting WePlay, he was a guy who I felt like wasn't taking enough initiative. I would say that if there was one criticism for m0NESY, and everyone's only heard good things about him so far, it was mostly that he wasn't being set up to make a lot of aggressive plays, okay? Now, famously, Guardian said a long time ago, I did an interview with him. I call it famously, he just did an interview with me. But I always remember this line when I said, hey, you know, a lot of people regard you as a passive opper. Do you like how that sounds? Is that how you would look at yourself? And he said, I don't believe that there are good passive oppers and good aggressive oppers. There are just good oppers and bad oppers. And bad oppers don't know when to go aggressive and don't know when to be passive, and vice versa. You got to have a little bit of all. And you could look at Guardian from that time and see, yeah, he knew how to make an opening tactic happen. A lot of people regarded him as a more slower-paced opper, especially coming off the back of Kenny S playing very aggressive CS and making that work for a while. Guardian was kind of the best opper after and around his time. And yeah, when you take a closer look at their gameplay, They knew where to make an opening maneuver happen to try to make a pick happen for the team. And it might be in their personality and their overall style to be leaning one way or the other, a little bit passive, a little bit aggressive. But ultimately, they've got to do both. And what we know about m0NESY is, yeah, he does play a little bit slower generally. I mean, everybody wants to draw the comparison to Simple, right? And unlike with Shiro, who people comparing him to Simple, that makes absolutely no sense because they're nothing alike. You know, Shiro is what you would call the most ultra passive possible opper. Of course, again, can still make plays happen when he needs to, but that's the kind of ethos of the team to play around him in that way. With m0NESY, he's kind of a middle ground, right? I'd say he's medium speed opper, and you see him make moves where he's getting the opening kill, but not quite as often. But I think the difference is with Shiro, he's used exactly as he should be, where he has obviously got to the top 4 this year on the HLTV top 21 list. He's a huge reason Gambit won. A lot of people would say he's the best player on Gambit's team. So he's being used perfectly, right? Provably, calculably. Calculable. It's calculable. It's palpable. You can feel it, okay? But with m0NESY, because he was playing in the Academy League, obviously, you know, those guys are not flashing you that good. I think that was a big problem, was that players like Torzy and m0NESY, they were having such high efficacy because there was never a flash assist in the kill feed, okay? Besides m0NESY and maybe 1 or 2 other teams, they were really lacking in that department, and they made a lot of these operas look better than they were. Now, we still believe in m0NESY, and we feel like, okay, he proved still that he would still be good, even if you were flashing him. But it was a big problem versus teams that didn't do that well. One of those teams being Young Ninjas, funnily enough. So now he's here playing the big ninjas. And on Inferno, he had this one specialty pick that I would always remember. He has really perfect pathing, and he would run up in the halls, B-hop 3 times down the halls, go down the steps, and then look for the kill. That's what he was always doing in the Academy League on Inferno. That was pretty much his big trick. So in this game, you know, first time we're watching him play in a Tier 1 official with G2 on Inferno. Ooh, this could be a cute little play. Let's take a look. He jumps back up. Oh, wow, that's cute. Oh, my gosh. Okay, I remember that. Wow, that's a cute one. My God. Yeah, he threw that smoke for himself. So you can see you can counter smokes with smokes. So it's something that you can... Sometimes when you're behind that smoke, you're throwing it all the way to the big pit so you can run in. A situation like this, the site hasn't been taken yet, so he just throws that smoke real shallow, but it allows him to jump up on the bike. And because it's a one-way, even though he took a shot, it's not for sure that the other team knows where he is, so he just goes back onto it and lets Jesus take the wheel from there. You know what I'm saying? Real nuts shot. But yeah, these mid-round situations, that's where we know he's pretty much perfect. Like, you don't have any real criticisms of him, at least. Honestly, I just don't know who. I don't know who's criticizing m0NESY. None of the analysts that I work with, none of the pro players I've talked to. I mean, no, just don't have anyone who's been like, well, actually, this is really bad. The only thing I've noticed, and we've watched a couple of these demos together on this channel with m0NESY, is just maybe a little bit of the initiative lacking. And honestly, in the demos that I saw, that wasn't really a big issue. It was mostly in the actual live matches, the Academy League, where I watched them, because of course, we did watch some of the more flattering games that m0NESY played in the Academy League, as opposed to ones where he struggled, even if those were few and far between. Okay, there weren't that many of them. Really cool to watch G2 with this whole new lineup with Alexi B on the team as well. We're going to see what it does with the map pool. Of course, OG were lacking on the map pool department, but they still have great maps in common with G2. The fact that they're going to play Inferno, the fact that they're willing to play Mirage, that's huge. m0NESY had to play Nuke, actually. That was the other map for the first time. And that was one where I think he had 2 officials on record playing Nuke. They did not play it on Young Ninjas. And he said himself he felt like he needed more practice. He still actually played pretty well. I think he had 60 ADR, but he had like, 19 and 17. A lot of great rounds to him. You're not going to get a super high ADR with an op anyways, but just watching the game, he was doing just fine. But that'll be an important map moving forward, right? Nuke will be a tournament-winning map for G2. A lot of people are talking about the pressure on m0NESY. But honestly, if he can't withstand a little bit of community pressure, I mean, he's never going to be the player G2 needed him to be. In the interview after the first match with James Banks, he said he didn't feel an iota of pressure when he played against Complexity. Ooh, nice shot. That's Plopsky down. So they're knowing when to regress. There's an opening kill for m0NESY. He's looking for it. I'd say, you know, compared to someone like Device, who you'd also call kind of a, maybe you'd call him a passive opera. He's just pretty much a perfect opera in the sense that he knows where to go and where to chill. Device spends a lot more time around mid. You know, if he goes for a fair bit of opening kills, actually crossing mid. And I haven't noticed if he does it as much on NIP, but that was definitely a mainstay tactic for him on Astralis. So far so good. m0NESY's going to wait here under the porch, see for the nades. Now, you can play either... operas can play on the second pillar or this pillar. Both are valid. Especially in high numbers, people will just tuck into the second pillar by the wall because you don't really have to fall back. As long as you get your kill, you're pretty much fine. In this spot, m0NESY, you give yourself the chance to multi-frag. You might get pre-fired is one thing, so that's the only reason that you might not want to play there. And we saw a lot in this game actually start out on both sides of the map quite often. So here's just protecting his investment. Molotov goes down, but just wants to make sure no one runs through it. And let's see if he gets any more aggressive than this. This is a spot. Okay, he's alone. And G2 are down a player. They're giving m0NESY the keys here, saying, hey, park it round back. You know, try not to scratch it. Now, the jump spot can take your attention away from you. That's part of m0NESY's vision right now is focusing on the half wall for someone to jump up. Also, someone can jump top of logs, and that would require a flick. m0NESY has to believe that he's going to hit the flick. If you hold an angle like this, you have to believe you hit the flick. That's pretty much the only way you can do it. And you better believe he's thinking about both these options right now, holding on to this. But I would consider this, you know, somewhat aggressive, especially considering they haven't cleared out bottom logs, the half wall, bottom of banana. It would be almost even safer to play a car in a position like this if they had cleared out banana at least once, even though you're farther up, because their opponents would be farther away. If he dies in that position, then there's just no rotation available to help him out, so round is near over. Oh, yeah, they do a boost. Okay, so Alexi and m0NESY have been doing this boost over and over again on the retakes here on Inferno. And I remember the shot being incredibly close, but they don't nail it, so. Oh, I was using the slow fast forward.
Oops.
Whoa, he said, guys, come watch this. 4 players from G2 coming with m0NESY onto B. Let's see what happens. Okay, they're waiting. They have a lot. I mean, when you have this many players, you don't just want to sit back on the site because there's no way that the T's are going to execute. Oh, but they take a Jax on lane, so this is almost a free round already. I don't think that G2 will even likely find a way back in. So from this position inside a library, you can get a nice, powerful line all the way to lane. You just got to hope they haven't crossed yet. But we're taking a risk because they didn't smoke the site on the cross. So m0NESY sees that that's open, and yeah, that's like, oh, maybe they haven't. Maybe they thought there was more players here, and they only took lane control. So there might have been a chance. But oh, okay, I'm sorry, I gotta go back. Frick me, man. I just fast forwarded through a couple of really good kills. Apparently, he's really good at B hopping. I mean, I know. Listen, even the best B hoppers can't hit over 60% of their hops. m0NESY's pushing it though. He does a lot of consistency, a lot of B hops consistently. Okay, we're finding this is one of m0NESY's favorite spots to play, and yeah, it's just under porch, but this left side of the pillar, that's just, it seems like a point of comfort for him. You're always thinking about the off angles, and this is clearly one of his favorites. You can hear someone kind of falling back out of alt, but it doesn't mean that they're not about to fake and come up lane, so it means nothing. It's also too early in the round to play off of information like that. That's almost the kind of info, depending on what happens in the round, you don't even comment, really. It depends. Everything depends, but that can be a good example of that. Now, behind this mall, he can actually peek. Okay, that's where he takes that S attack. You can see how fast some of these shots are. That was actually a spot where they didn't do a good job of flashing him. Yeah, or I've talked about that before. NIP, I think, get abused by really strong operas a lot in their career. Now they have Device, so that helps out a lot, but they're using Fuzi as a stand-in because Device has taken a few months off. Yeah, m0NESY really likes that position here, holding from the left side pillar. Comfort zone. You got to be careful of this, copying, pasting plays that you've made in previous rounds, especially if you got spotted on these exact angles. But the way the last fight went down, not flashed again. That's a huge mistake by NIP. He was just there, and they didn't bounce you just have to bounce a flash off the wall that lands under porch. You get the opper back. The opper should never be able to get a free kill from that position because, honestly, it's such a strong position for the opper, but there are so many nades designed for the opper to get them back. The porch molly, the lane molly, and another situation where he's unflashed and makes a very normal rotation around to arch. Yes, he's going to hit that shot pretty much every time. And now I think Fuzi's dead. I thought he's like waiting for the opper now. You can see escorts his teammate into pit, and now this frees him up so he can move around a little bit. So that was pretty much why I was just watching that halls for a second. And now you can go back to these open lines and be free, and someone's watching his balcony now. His favorite angle. Okay, Rez goes down in mid. Easy. They're letting him farm. Not a great look so far from NIP, though, I will say. But that being said, they gave it a better second shot on Mirage. Way better. Still wasn't good enough, but... Okay, there's another mid attempt. No aggressive plays, no alt picks here. Poor m0NESY will look for one shot. Hangs out for quite a while. It's just really consistent with those B-hops. And Inferno's uneven ground. Some people don't know this, but certain maps are completely flat, like Nuke, for example. And then certain maps like Inferno are really bumpy. So if you run boost on a map like Inferno, since the ground is not level, you can actually take 2 steps and then get stuck if someone's above you, because the game won't let you go uphill with someone on your head. So Inferno, there's particular spots to run boost. You can always run boost going down, but running across something like Arch, for example, can often get you stuck if you try to run boost. But Nuke, completely flat. You can run boost anywhere. That's why it's a B-hopper's paradise. And all the ladders, of course. Made it a mainstay of KZ shitheads like me. Oh, that one's free. Does have to be a flick for m0NESY. He shows himself off and then gets out of there. You can see as soon as he shows up on the post, Hunter, who's playing the corner, starts to fall back to the site. He can worry about lane. m0NESY can support now. He's got this flash for Jax. His teammates got it. It's the best team that m0NESY's played on. It's the best team that NiKo's played on. It's the best team that AlexiB's played on. It's a weird one because we got a spot now where, let's say, you know, if you're an AlexiB hater, or if you're a m0NESY doubter, or if you're a NiKo hater, they can shield themselves with their teammates. You know, the amount of skill now on the roster means that 2 of these guys could have a bad game and they could still win the game. You still got Hunter, you know, a top 12 player who might end up being, you know, the 4th best player on the team. Or 3rd best player on the team. You know, crazy to think about. If m0NESY gets where he needs to be and NiKo continues to be consistent. We saw some really strong individual plays from Alexi today too. And I'll go to this boost again. See if there's even a chance that they can win this. Pip was saying, I hate Inferno. We were in the green rooms. I hate Inferno. You throw 1 smoke arch and the retake's over. These days it is. It used to be that you would find a way. And if the smoke goes down on arch like that, we saw the m0NESY bike smoke. You can throw that as well to try to retake. It depends on the numbers. In a situation like this, 5 alive, you're probably not going to try to do it. But if you know that there's like, it's a 2v2 and they've got 1 pit, 1 site, you can stand at arch, throw that smoke down to the pit, and then start to scale the site, holding to the right, watching the boxes, and you actually have a favored fight versus the guys on the site. At the arch smoke coming down, and he's on this side of mid. This could smell like an opportunity, but he'll start to fall back. They get that opening kill traded, and I think they're going to try to get Jax to get comfortable inside the hall so m0NESY can leave. He takes a peek. Not every day you flash into the halls anymore, actually, because a lot of times people are playing anti. That flash doesn't work out as well as you want it to sometimes, because even if there's a rifler holding it, they'll just start shooting, and you can get clotheslined running in off the flash. So people stop doing flash in the halls plays as much as they used to. Jax was on Instagram with a photo of m0NESY saying, just won a game with my son. Jax, 13 years the elder to m0NESY. A whole person older than m0NESY, but both very youthful and exuberant. He gets the B-hop every time. It's like clockwork. Don't think he's missed one yet. All right, we see someone fumbling around in halls. The same position. We found m0NESY's favorite angle, guys. We found it. You can't do this all the time, but at first, if whatever works for you, comfort's huge, and then if teams don't deal with it, yeah, I think the thing is no one's pushed him, right? Like, they've never successfully got m0NESY off this spot and then forced him to have a hard trade. It's like, okay, now they throw the molly. They finally throw a good flash. They don't get opt-in mid. Oh my gosh. It's a brand new NIP. Oh, he trusts his teammate. Oh my god. Oh my god. That was nice. Wow. Okay. Wow, he just didn't get rattled. He's getting shot in the side. I mean, we see a smoke up there. He didn't see that. They didn't calm that. No way. He just had a teammate on site. He trusted him and held down lane. That was really good. Really good play for m0NESY. That's a small thing, but you know, he could have looked up at the hall, saw the smoke, got shot in the side. That's what would have happened to your average Joe. Oh, now we just getting the stats up. Well, we know he doesn't miss. I think we've seen him. I think he missed once so far this half. Pretty much. I think we got to find another game as well, one where he gets tested a little bit more, because we could see. I think we can kind of clearly see why NIP just really failed here. And Mirage was actually really interesting because I felt like G2 were making a lot of mistakes, but they actually solved them by the time they got to overtime. And it was also a pretty exciting game because they started 6-0, then they lost 1 billion rounds, and then they won 1 billion rounds in a row, like 9 rounds in a row to get to overtime. And then it came to double overtime, and then they won from there. And you could consistently see the improvements that G2 are making, thinking about the past. As NIP were also calling a great game. Hampus had an awesome day. I think he was the second best rated player of yesterday. The spot is called Moto because of a player named Moto in 1.6. On the old Inferno, there used to be like a tiny little wood bridge here with a pit that you could sit in and be a troll. Oh, that's the line. Yo, it's so cool to have Fuzi coming in, playing against m0NESY. 2 Academy League players going head-to-head, and we might ever, eventually get G2 versus Na'Vi, and then it'll be m0NESY versus Bit. That's going to be a showdown and a half. So, okay, that's m0NESY's debut. It was a game where he hit a lot of great shots. Overall, let's see. I want to go ahead and pull up the scoreboard with it. I'm on my travel setup right now, so it's a little bit ghetto. But you know what I mean? We work with what we got. All right, okay. As long as we're making the content. I got a comfy little setup right now. Yeah, m0NESY was 18-9 on the overall, and I think 13-5 on the CT side. And he had actually had 100% KAST across all rounds. The only player on the map to have 100% KAST, and that's kills, assists, survivor traded. That means if you did any of those things in a round, then you get 100% KAST for that round. So yeah, basically it was always useful in some way. Strong map, and overall really, really good start to the tournament. I mean, no one's got anything to doubt him for so far with these last couple of matches. These are the first 3 games that he's played. He's gone positive in all of them. Mirage was a very slow start, but a huge recovery from him in overtime, I think, was the difference to actually win the game, even though he struggled at first. Barely any experience on Nuke and still managed to be one of the better performers on the map. So looking good so far from m0NESY, right? It's a pretty great debut and so much more to show from him. So we'll see what happens as we move forward with m0NESY, but that's the debut of the kid that we've been talking about all year, getting onto the second best team in the world. Pretty exciting stuff. We got to shout out Carlos for putting together a roster like G2. They managed to build basically the most popular roster in CSGO besides Na'Vi, and also one that's a clear upgrade from his old roster when he was already second best team in the world. So what can you say? We're very lucky to have a team like G2. It's so hard to build a good CSGO team. It must have been so difficult for Carlos to get m0NESY out of Na'Vi when they're a direct competitor and they know how good m0NESY was as a prospect, and he still managed to do that, to make it happen. He just made it happen. And so many other CEOs and orgs and stuff like that won't and wouldn't be able to make it happen and have tried and failed and not talked about it, but he did that. So yeah, that's why we get to watch this stuff. Looking forward to watching more. Hope you enjoyed that one. It's good to be back on the grind. First demo back on the road, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And as always, stay safe.
Big dog shit, got my paws all dirty. Looking for a plate, that's why the dogs up early. With it white big, eat it like a mixed flurry. I ain't got time to chill, I'm in a hurry. P the game, I got it for my daddy ho. Smoking dope, reciting raps out on the patio. My boss said you ain't